Kaixo, egunon, guztioi, mila esker gaur gurekin izateagatik. Mi nombre es Pablo Idobro, soy el responsable de la oficina en Singapur de la Agencia Vasca de Internacionalización, desde la que damos apoyo a empresas vascas con interés en los países del sudeste asiático pertenecientes a la comunidad Asia. Os damos la bienvenida a este webinario en el que vamos a presentar el mercado de las tecnologías y los dispositivos médicos en Singapur, además de presentar el Singapore Medtech Consortium. Creemos que tanto Singapur como otros países de la región, como Indonesia o Tailandia, a pesar del impacto de la pandemia, siguen representando uno de los mercados de mayor crecimiento y potencial del mundo y de Asia, presentando oportunidades muy interesantes para las empresas vascas, además de ser mercados todavía bastante poco explorados por nuestras empresas a nivel general. Por esto, el objetivo de este webinario es la presentación del sector y sus oportunidades para tanto la comercialización como la fabricación de dispositivos médicos. Para ello contamos con tres ponentes con un importante conocimiento del sector. Los tres son singapurenses, por lo que realizaremos el webinar en inglés. Welcome everyone to our webinar to introduce Singapore Medtech market and opportunities, as well as the Singapore Medtech Consortium. Before introducing our speakers, let me thank Enterprise Singapore and their team in Frankfurt for their help in the organization of this event. Today, we will have three speakers with us. First, we'll have Ms. Marianne Tan, Regional Director for European Markets of the Singapore Economic Development Board, EDB, the Investment Promotion and Industry Development Agency of Singapore. Marianne will introduce Singapore as a business hub for entering the Asian market, with a special focus to the bio and health sectors, introducing some of the initiatives developed by EDB and multinational companies in Singapore as well. Second, we'll have Mr. Kenny Lee. Kenny is the Marketing Vice President of Razer Technology. Kenny will introduce the audience to Razer Technology's manufacturing activities, as well as the Singapore Medtech Consortium. This initiative, the Singapore Medtech Consortium, is led by Razer Technology and comprises a group of companies in different fields, such as manufacturing, market entry, distribution, as well as investment. We will see a short video about this initiative as well. Last but not least, we'll have Mr. Kin Lim, Managing Director of Hilwaf, also part of the Singapore Medtech Consortium as well. Hilwaf is specialized in the distribution and commercialization of medical devices and other healthcare-related products, and he will be giving the audience a brief introduction of the regulatory framework in Singapore for medical devices and health software as well. We will finish the webinar with a question and answer session. So please write your questions in the comment section, and we will review and we will ask the speakers later. Now, let me introduce the audience to our first speaker, Ms. Marianne Tan. Hi, hello, Marianne. Good morning.
Hi, Pablo.
Yes, the floor. You can start whenever you want. The floor is yours. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. I'm Marianne. I'm the regional director from the Singapore Economic Development Board, and I'm based in Europe. And I cover Singapore's engagements with the business community in France as well as in Spain. So, I'll give me a few moments while I pull up the slides. All right, great. Yes, so thank you very much to Pablo and his team, and also to Enterprise Singapore for inviting me to today's webinar. It is my pleasure today to introduce the Singapore MedTech industry to you. So what I'll be covering today will be to give an overview of what is in Singapore today, and also how the EDB supports companies. So the EDB is a government agency. We are under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and what we do is three things mainly. The first, like Pablo said, is to facilitate investments from international companies wanting to use Singapore as a base to access the Asian markets. But we also work with industry as well as the rest of government to develop Singapore's industries, whether it is in healthcare, whether it is in aerospace, whether it's in digital as well. And finally, we work with the rest of government to ensure that Singapore remains a business-friendly environment for companies to do business. So over the years, we have built up quite a diverse economy in Singapore. And you would know Singapore maybe for tourism, maybe as a finance hub, but also Singapore is often used as a regional headquarters by international companies to direct their operations in the Asian region, also for supply chain activities, also as a manufacturing center for the region and so sometimes globally as well. And finally, especially in recent years, for research and innovation. So this pie chart here gives you a snapshot of Singapore's economy as a whole. And as you can see, manufacturing actually is the largest sector at about 22% of our GDP in 2021. Within manufacturing, biomedical manufacturing, both for biopharmaceuticals as well as medical technologies, is among the top 3 contributors to our manufacturing output. So as you can see, it is a sector that we place a lot of emphasis on, and we're always looking to see how we can work with the international businesses to grow the ecosystem in Singapore. And in order to do this, it's been really important for us to really ensure that the Singapore business environment remains competitive, remains easy to do business in. So these are some of the rankings that we have really worked quite hard to achieve. In particular, ensuring that it's easy to do business. So for example, if you wanted to set up an entity in Singapore, it takes 1 day. We also know that for companies to do business in Singapore, it's really critical that you have access to talent. So this is both ensuring that the local workforce is skilled with the up-to-date competencies that you need, but also being very open to international talent. And especially for high technology sectors, intellectual property protection is very important, and that's why we have focused a lot on ensuring that intellectual property rights are respected in Singapore. So why is it that we have seen the healthcare sector grow so much in Singapore? There are a few factors to this. We happen to be in a region where there's a very strong growth trajectory for healthcare spending, underpinned by factors such as having an increase in life expectancy, but also at the same time aging populations. Also a rising incidence of chronic and non-communicable diseases such as cancer and cardiovascular diseases, and also an emerging middle class, which means that with more disposable income, people are also more willing to spend on healthcare. So overall, in Asia, we have seen healthcare spending increase. And that is why a lot of companies have decided to use Singapore as a hub to serve the Asian region. So you can see this is a graphic of the Singapore, of mainland Singapore, and you can see that the healthcare companies are really dotted all over the island. Some things I wanted to highlight is things like you will see in the west, there is a cluster of manufacturing, as well as research and innovation activities clustered around the industrial areas, as well as some of the universities, as well as in the hospitals. For medtech companies in particular, we have worked with another government agency, which is JTC. So they direct the industrial land strategies for Singapore, and they have created a dedicated site for medtech manufacturing, which is designed to enhance GMP compliance for companies. Specific to medtech, you will see that we now have a diverse base of companies manufacturing for different verticals, whether it's for life science tools, whether it's for eye care, whether it's for medical supplies. And these companies also work with the base of CMOs and suppliers that have established presence in Singapore, so for manufacturing as well as for commercialization. And I think this is something that my colleagues from the Singapore Medtech Consortium are going to elaborate on later, on how they work with the rest of the industry. In terms of R&D, There are now 32 product development centers in Singapore. Most of them work on Asian-specific product development, but some of them have also expanded their mandate to serve the global market. So, for example, Thermo Fisher has set up in Singapore their Global Instrument Center of Excellence. And altogether, for R&D, the industry actually employs quite a sizable employment, so with over 800 research scientists and engineers. So you might be thinking now that, okay, some of these companies have been established in Asia or in Singapore for quite some time. How about new companies that are looking to start something in Singapore? So it often starts with a collaboration. So for example, working with some of the research institutes in Singapore, the hospitals. For example, Johnson & Johnson has a joint R&D lab with the Singapore National Eye Centre. And sometimes you have the research institutes with whom you can start up some projects to kind of dip your toes into the ecosystem for the first time. And over time, of course, you could also then look at partnership models with other companies that are already in Asia, and sometimes we also work with corporates, for example, like how we have worked with Philips in order to stand up new startups, new companies that will be directed from Singapore to serve the global market. We are also really working on more joint innovation statements. So we have an open innovation platform that aims to bridge demand as well as supply for joint innovation projects. And there is actually some grant funding available. So coming up in the third quarter of this year, there will be a second call for the Eureka Eurostars International Co-Innovation Funding Call. So this is a funding call where if a company from Spain as well as Singapore decide to work on an innovation project together, the project can qualify for funding both from Spain as well as Singapore. So the slides will be available to you, and you can check out the details of this funding call later if this is something you would like to explore. We have also then tried to map out the supporting ecosystem and partners to help new companies navigate the whole ecosystem. So as you can see here, starting from the discovery and ideation phase all the way to commercialization, we have mapped out the different partners in Singapore that you might be able to work with. And finally, Singapore is where a lot of companies have decided to direct their regional operations. And some of the functions that they often start with, of course, would be things like sales and marketing, business development. But over time, as the business gains traction, also then the supply chain management, the shared corporate functions, and also in order to serve the market, and especially for medtech, where regulations are really important, to have specialized functions such as medical and regulatory affairs, and also the market access aspects of it. So what I have tried to do just is to really give an overview of all the different activities for the medtech industry that you would find in Singapore. And then now I'm going to move on to how Singapore tries to work with companies and support you as you grow in Asia. So a very key part of this is ensuring that there's a skilled talent that is up to date with the industry's required skills. And for this, we work a lot with the tertiary institutes, with the universities, to ensure that the right training programs are in place. We also work with the research institutes as well as companies themselves in order to work on on-the-job training and work on continuing education. For companies that are just starting to look at the Asian market and thinking of Singapore as a place to do business, we have made available a series of digital resources so that you have the right information to help you navigate the landscape. So this relates to, for example, articles on what's the market like, but also business guides on exactly how do you set up an entity in Singapore, how do you recruit talent, and also through our investment clinics where we have short form videos to guide you on what it's like to do business. And through this, and through the investment clinic, you'll also have the opportunity to chat with us and ask us anything. And of course, there's me. So I'm based in Paris and I cover the Spanish market from here. I make quite regular trips to Spain. So if you have any questions on what it's like to do business in Singapore, what are some of the information or connections we might be able to link you up with, or if you would like to know how else the Singapore government supports companies in expanding in Singapore, feel free to drop me a line and we can have a chat about it. So if you have any questions about doing business in Singapore, I'll be happy to take them later during the Q&A section. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for your presentation and insights about Singapore. Now, let me introduce the audience to our second guest of the day, Mr. Kenny Lee. Kenny, you can go ahead with your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you, Paulo. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and inviting Singapore Medtech Consortium to be part of this webinar. My name is Kenny. I'm the Business Development Director from Racer Technology Singapore. With me, Keith is my Marketing Manager. We are very delighted to share what Singapore Medtech Consortium could offer and transform your idea into reality. Racer Technology is spearheading the Singapore Medtech Consortium, which was established in 2012 with a strong support from Singapore government and, of course, EDB and government body. We are a group of Singapore-based companies from investment, product development, manufacturing, and distribution. We provide end-to-end manufacturing in the space of diagnostics, drug delivery, therapeutics, microfluidics, consumable, as well as medical devices. To date, we have close to about 80 members in this consortium. The objective of the consortium is to build a better healthcare system in this region so that Singapore could be one of the germs that actually helps the overseas market to explore into Asian Pacific. Let me play you a video about SMC and follow with a detailed presentation after the video.
Singapore is the leading medtech innovation and commercialization base in Asia and provides a full value chain of capabilities from research and development to manufacturing and distribution. With the trust of the Singapore government and supported by Enterprise Singapore, the Singapore Medtech Consortium, or SMC, was formed to enhance the landscape of a holistic medtech ecosystem. The SMC focuses on strategic manufacturing management and the commercialization of medical devices from concept to reality. The SMC is spearheaded by Racer Technology, a medical contract manufacturer with a team of passionate engineers committed to improving the leading edge and manufacturing of medtech sectors. We bring together an innovative collaboration of companies to bring and develop ideas for the healthcare industry. We guarantee a 24-hour response through our global network and provide direct support from our strategic location. We offer a range of healthcare capabilities from product design and tooling to assembly and sterilization. We have accumulated extensive experience working with the medical industry. Product design implements methodical protocols that bring together a balance of aesthetics and function. By leveraging our broad background across many disciplines, we are able to provide creative insights and a deep knowledge of market trends with user experience. We carefully review and inspect our designs and prototypes, improving our customers' journey to be more efficient and optimized. Our design thinking manages engineering validation, cost optimization, serviceability, and fulfilling engineering challenges. We navigate design guidelines through transformative design, harnessing future technology to build products that keep you ahead of the field. We have in-depth experience in development and lean manufacturing, spanning low volume to mass production. Our metalworks focus on fulfilling your tight tolerance challenges. Aluminum extrusion and die casting provide a complete finished part cycle with our 5-axis precision machining, anodizing, and powder coating. Process plans for progressive stamping and plastics injection tooling can now be edited directly on our geometry systems in 3D, which makes changes to our process definition much easier, providing traceability records as well. Our MIM technology is the best viable process for your miniature parts. Our SMT line experience in handling high mix volumes has provided flexibility in handling frequent changeovers. Our in-house climate chamber ensures your products with repeatability and reliability. Aligning with healthcare needs, our reagent manufacturing offers a wide range of diagnostic admixture and cleaning solutions. We showcase the best in healthcare deliverables with our medical technology lean manufacturing. We have integrated smart factory digitalization systems into our real-time manufacturing and quality processes with integrated computing, network, and RFID. Our operations can be executed with minimal manual intervention and high reliability. The automated workflows, synchronization of assets, improved tracking and scheduling, and optimized energy consumption inherent in our smart factory can increase yield, uptime, and quality, as well as reduce costs and waste. The result being more efficiency, less production downtime, and a greater ability to predict and adjust to changes in the facility or broader network, leading to better positioning in the competitive marketplace.
Capital solves only one part of a problem for startups. What they really need is, one, the sector knowledge, which healthcare providers and medtech players or insurance companies can get. But then is a significant challenge of scaling those companies to their fullest potential. And that's where a consortium is extremely useful.
Hereways was founded in 2017 as a commercial one-stop solution for inventors who have marketable innovation but lack the commercial competence and business know-how across the Asia-Pacific region.
I'm the CEO of Build Labs. What we offer is services to help companies to bring their products to market. We hope that together with the partners of the consortium, we can offer complete solutions for companies locally in Singapore and also overseas to help bring more products to market through Singapore.
Our commitment and proactive approach to control improvement as part of our quality management system is reflected in our ISO and FDA Class II certification. We believe when a group of dynamic companies come together as one, we can achieve fulfilling and great things.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Singapore is a gateway for most of the foreign company getting into Singapore and export out. I think one of the keystones about Singapore is that we do enjoy a lot of free trade agreement with US, Europe, and Japan. So as for Razer, the head office is in Singapore, and we have quite a number of facilities around Singapore. As you are aware, Singapore is one of the highest costs in terms of labor around Asia Pacific. Most of the engineers or program engineers are all based in Singapore. So you'll be communicating with most of the engineers over here. But once the product has gone into maturity, we will actually propose to our customers if they want to do it in the places whereby the labor cost is much more competitive. So a couple of footprints about us in worldwide. So we have facility in Malaysia, which is about 1 hour from north of Singapore. Indonesia, about 1 hour south by ferry south of Singapore. India, we have a design facility that help us with design for manufacturing and design for assembly as well as software design. We have been in the US market for the past 2 decades. We are in the Silicon Valley. So over there, we actually house a couple of engineers that facilitate our customers in terms of engineering, design, and sales services. Manufacturing has always been our blood. So our main focus is on very early involvement with proof of concept, bring customers from the prototype stage all the way to mass production and helping them to distribute into Asia Pacific region. Over the years, we did talk about having a sales office in Europe. So hopefully, Spain will be one of the potential office that we could start up with. Razer technology is 1345 certified, ISO 9001 14,000 certified, as well as FDA Class 2 certified. So we have very comprehensive process validation from IQ, OQ to PQ. That what it means is that once a product has been approved for clinical trial, we ensure that your product is being produced at a very consistent manner. And over the times, I think we have close to 75% of our customers are in the medtech sector. So on the bottom column, you can see that we are serving Fortune 500 companies. About close to 8 to 12% of our business model is with startup. So this is Singapore Medtech Consortium. It was founded by Racer Technology in 2012, and with support from EDB, Enterprise Singapore, and a couple of Singapore agencies that help to build up the whole ecosystem. We work with overseas partners in incubators such as Medical Valley in Düsseldorf, as well as in US, Lata Institute, as well as Sila Senai. So the beautiful part of the consortium is that we have our investment arm, meaning to say if you are looking for a product that is being produced in Singapore Medtech Consortium, the investment arm consists of venture capitalists, private equity, angel investors could invest if you are looking for some seed funding. And of course, in our distribution, we also help to do a back-to-back regulatory if you are registered in Singapore, HSA, and we help you to gain market access in this particular region. I think Kim will touch on that in more detail. This is the whole consortium. So, we have various expertise from injection molding, tool fabrication, metalworks, PCBA, wire harnessing, metal injection molding as well. So Singapore has been one of the world's most competitive economy market. So we are actually ranked second after US in 2019. That's the reason why I think Mary has shared that in Singapore it is abundant of very good pool of talents, having Singapore as a gateway to the rest of the world. And in the Asia Pac market, you could see that in Asia in 2021 we are second highest in export after China. Getting into China to market is not easy because it has very, very long regulation time. Clinical trial could take about 3 to 5 years. So some of the portfolio that we do, over here, I'm showing case some of the portfolio that we did for a couple of customers. These are all more than 10 years old because we have quite a new product that we are under NDA with the customer, we are unable to show it. So on the top right hand corner, we work with this company called Minimac Medtronics on the diabetes care. So our involvement is to do with more of product improvement. So they came to us, they have an issue with some of the cable harnessing and connectivity of the cables into the diabetes pump. So when we look at idea, they are looking at a cost saving about 30%. So we have been doing quite a number of early involvement with customers. We send our engineers side by side with the team to came up with idea, and we help them to actually save the cost of to redesign the whole diabetes pump switch in less than 6 months. And we send it for clinical trial. We help them to do all the design history file records, and it was finally up for production. On the bottom right is a cochlear implant. So as we are FDA Class 2, we only take care of the non-invasive part. That is for Boston Scientific. We are also in the space of mother care. So Willow, a startup company in US, came to us, and initially when they want to develop a desktop breast pump. So when they come, other than offering manufacturing solution, we will do offer commercial advisors, such as when we look at a product, we would consider, we want to get into the space of diagnostics and consumable. So for the case of Willow, when they come to us, we say that for breast pump, there's so much in the market. Why don't you design something that help you to have recurrent revenue? So for Willow, we actually developed a wearable version with a disposable milk bag. This is for a company in a spin-off company from Cambridge University. It is used to treat HIV patient. So in Africa, most of the point of care for HIV testing will take about more than 2 days. a lot of the patients, when they get to the hospital, they do not have a chance to look at the result before they hit home. So we work with this company called DRW in Cambridge. So what it does is that, it could diagnose if a patient with HIV within 2 hours and provide them a result. So our involvement, the Singapore Medtech Consortium involvement with this program is from all the way from clinical trial into mass production. So we did a multi-capillary tool. We did a whole clinical trial together with them. And of course, the Racer technology is IVD certified. We did most of the dispensing of the liquid and assembly in our ISO 13485 clean room. Over the pandemic, I think 2 years ago, the world is shortage of ventilator. So we took part in this ventilator challenge together with Cambridge Consultant. Cambridge Consultant is a very well-known company for most of the product development. So they came to us to do most of the prototype. And we managed to chill out a prototype within a time frame of 6 weeks with the help of Singapore Medtech Consortium. And of course, during the pandemic, as you know, ventilators are usually made up of standard components. So a lot of the standard component was out of stock as well, or sell at a very high price from the stockists. So on the second program, we worked with a company in Seattle, a worldwide ventilator for a portable ventilator. So what we did is that, we actually customized most of the pump and valve. So this portable ventilators is FDA Class 2 certified, and right now we are actually selling to most of the US Army. Medela, a company in Switzerland. So very interesting concept. Medela come to us, they only give us the color theme. They want it to be yellow and transparent. So on this particular program, we actually went through the whole of the entire marketing plan together with Medela, looking at how mother treat milk warmer and baby sterilizer. So we came up with the whole of the entire industrial design, mechanical design, PCBA design, helping them to do most of the regulatory, like for example, CE and FCC approval. And right now it's currently running in my Indonesia facility. We are in the blood banking business as well. So a company of a long-term customer of ours in New Jersey, we were doing this blood welding sterilizer. So on the picture, you can see the first generation was actually developed in 1993. So over the years, most of the components have wear out. And what this device do is that it could cut and seal plasma blood and keep it fresh for the next 24 hours. So there's a disposable side of it, which is the wafer. So when they come to us, we look at the product. One of the key things is, we have to integrate Bluetooth technology, and of course, cost saving to the customer. What we did for this product is that, we managed to get our designer, send them to a very good hotel, think about the design, and we managed to chill out a blade that could cut about 500 to 1,000 blades. So indirectly, it's having a cost saving to the customers. RF sealer. So one of the product that we did together with A-Star, Syntech, Singapore Research Institute. So what this thing does is that, if you go for a blood test, it actually cut the blood into a small little section and send for lab for any of the testing. So Racer involvement again is on all the way from proof of concept to mass production. Company in San Francisco, Nanomix. This company is, do most of the diagnostics of the Ebola, cardiac arrest, dengue fever. So the cartridge, when they sent to us, we are actually building in our ISO Class 8 clean room. It consists of microfluidic chips, biosensor, and of course reagent manufacturing. So of course, during the past 2 years, we changed the whole reagent into a COVID test kit. This is another company that we deal with together with Cambridge Consultant. So on the right-hand side, we are only given the proof of concept, the idea from the customers. So again, we help them to do most of the design thinking, human interface, microfluidic chips. One of the key strengths about Racer is the microfluidic chips division. We do have capability of having pretty fine channel on the microfluidic chips. So we do have the prototype portion whereby we could have the ability to bond PDMS and glass, and of course to develop COP, and bonding to the adhesive. So this is one of the company that, this is for a 3D cell culture. So, during the olden days, when we want to do drugs testing, we always have mice to do most of the testing. But not now anymore. With this company, AIM Biotech is a spin-off from MIT. What we do is we actually feed in cancer cell into the middle part of the portion, and at the side with a pretty fine microfluid chips, we feed in sugar and oxygen to see how the cell react. So indirectly, it's incubated into an environment of 37 degrees as per a human being, and we see how much the drugs has been interfaced before we could actually release for production. A vapor, this is Mypiomis, a company in California. This is also invested by the SMC Angel. So this is used to treat patients with sinus and allergy. So the unique thing about this, it has a ceramic heater and it has the ability to convert water to steam at a split of a second. And these are all widely available in CVS and Walmart. Fitbit. So we are the first company that did with Fitbit when Fitbit was just startup. It was James Park, Eric Furman, and his dad. So when they come to us, we were so worried that they can't pay us. But because of we have been dealing with this, we know them through a company in US, which is a designer, and racial involvement was helping them to did most of the mechanical design. And we the first round of production, the first few months of production is only 500 a unit, and it went out about 2,000 a day when Michelle Obama endorsed it. So I moved the whole line into Batam. Reagent manufacturing. These are also during the pandemic, whereby we do most of the liquid dispensing using manual, semi-auto, or full automation. So this is one of the full automation. This is also used during the pandemic. This is for some of the migrant workers for swab tests. Microfluid chips, again, one of our key capability that we could have the ability to do pretty fine channel of 10 to 5 microns. And these are all the products, that is, running on Factory 4.0. So recent business, we look into diagnostics and consumable. So on the top right-hand corner, these are most of the diagnostic equipment that's built in Singapore. Anything that's high volume production, we will actually move to places where labor cost is much more competitive. And of course, we are also involved with quite a number of lateral flow and point of care. Okay, I think that's about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kenny, for the introduction of Razer Technology and the Singapore Medtech Consortium. We believe that the consortium is a very interesting initiative for companies from the Basque Country looking for entering the market for both distribution and manufacturing, since the consortium covers the whole value chain. Thank you so much. Now, lastly, is the turn for Mr. Kin Lim. Kin, you can go ahead with your presentation. Welcome to the webinar.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kin. I'm from Hereway, also part of the Singapore Medtech Consortium, responsible for all the market entry matters for our consortium partners. Let me put up my deck. I'm very happy today to share about the regulatory framework of medical device in Asia. Particularly, we will look into the overview in Asia and ASEAN. Then with an example from Singapore Health Science Authority, HSA, the different evolution routes. And last but not least, we look into the key consideration in the regulatory strategy. Okay, if you look into the regulatory framework in Asia, it is very different from European, the CE framework that you guys have in Europe. Basically, in Asia, every product will need approval from every country's regulatory authority. And that really creates a lot of key challenges for the companies. And particularly, we have 4 main key challenges that I put it up today. First of all, the regulatory divergence. You look at the different countries with their level of expertise. You tend to have a lot of different scenario and standard among the countries itself. What is very critical is the language, and it's also very different. Even though, give an example that if you say Greater China, we consider China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, you realize that even their Mandarin is different. So that actually creates a lot of languages problem and challenges that we face. And next is definitely the cultural difference as well. You can see that language and cultural barriers, in fact, serve a very important part and in terms of the regulatory application. Next will be the resource and capacity gap. In terms of some of the countries, their standards and their levels of capacity is not really in full capacity, 100%. So they will have to rely a lot on certain main countries for their approval before they review. I will share that more on the Singapore HSA later. But what is very important is market protectionism. We have seen that for the past 10 to 20 years, there is a lot of market protectionism among Asia. And given that these 2 years of COVID and plus the latest situation with the Ukraine war, you realize that the market protectionism is even going to the max. You realize that the globalization is no longer the same as before. Next, I will share about the using Singapore HSA as an example to share how Singapore HSA can help the companies to expedite their approval of their products. Now, among ASEAN, we are proud to say that Singapore is definitely a leader of the pack in terms of regulatory approvals. We are very transparent and we have very clear standards and procedures to help companies to get their approval in Singapore as soon as possible. And through Singapore goes into the other countries since Singapore is the gateway. Now we have this thing called the ASEAN Harmonization Standards. You can see that the harmonization standard is basically mutually agreed by all the ASEAN member states. They are identical in terms of the content and the structure. Now, the main purpose, the objective is to eliminate all the technical barriers to trade posed by regulations. But on our hand, to ensure that the product is of quality and is of efficiency and safety as well. Now, what is critical about these standards is that we use among ASEAN, we use a standard dossier template that is identical, although it's still not the same among all the countries, but it's very identical. So preparing one template itself means that you can actually maybe 80-90% prepared for the other ASEAN countries similarly. Now, quickly we'll go through the HSA evaluation routes of medical devices. It's very similar to the CE route that you look into your risk classification, duration of the safe marketing history of your device, and what is very important is the number of prior approval given by independent reference regulatory agencies. I'll cover more later. Now, medical device in Singapore classified into 4 risk classes, class A, B, C, and D. And the factors influencing the risk classification is basically the invasiveness of your device, duration, contact with the body, and likewise, you to have any biological effect on the patients. And what is very important is that if one medical device is intended to be used together with another medical device, the risk classification rules shall apply separately to each of the medical devices. Now, this is the 5 main independent reference regulatory agencies. First of all, of course, is the US FDA. Second will be the European Union, the CE. Australia, TGA. Health Canada. And last but not least, Japan Ministry of Health. Singapore understands that a lot of companies was very eager to be able to get the regulatory approval and to speed up their access to the countries and of course to the market entry. So not only that we will start off with the full route, we have come up with the various screens to help the companies to expedite their approval. We're starting from the full route that we see here. Then next will be the priority review scheme. And there is 2 kinds of scheme I'll share later. And next will be the average. expedite, and of course the immediate scheme. Now, taking a registration for Class B medical device, for example, you are eligible to register a Class B medical device via the abridged evaluation scheme if you have currently approved at least one of the independent reference regulatory agencies. So it's as simple as that. So long that you have one approval out of the 5 agencies, you can straight away go to the abridged route. For Class B, there's another option where we call it the immediate route. It's also very straightforward. If you have approval for at least one of the agencies and your product has been marketed for at least 3 years in the particular countries that is approved, you can straight away go for the immediate route, meaning to say that the product will be immediately approved by the HSA Singapore. Condition 2, for immediate route, if you do not have a 3 years marketing history, but you have been approved by at least 2 of the independent agencies, straight away you can also opt for the immediate route as well. Of course, the conditions being that there is no safety issues globally, and there's no rejection or withdrawal from any of the independent agencies to date. Now, the next one that we look at will be the priority review route. Singapore do understand that there's certain criteria that is very critical for the unmet needs in the healthcare industry. So these are the areas that the medical device that you meet the criteria below, including cancer, diabetes, cardio, infectious diseases, and automatic diseases. You can opt for the priority review route. If your product do not meet 5 of these categories, you still can go for the priority review route by paying more. I will share it a bit more later. Okay, you can see that the turnaround time in terms of all the different routes, if you go for a full route, for Class B, for example, is taking about 160 days. If you go into a priority review scheme, it will just take about 120 days. It's about 25% quicker. And of course, full route priority route 2 is basically you pay more to cut queue. So long that you are paying and the higher fees to cut the queue, you will also save a day of about 25%. Abridged route is about 100 days in turnaround time, and immediate will be definitely 0 days. So long that you have 2 approval, you straight away have the approval in Singapore. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to share about the key consideration in regulatory strategy. We have encountered a lot of companies where they want to enter into Asia, but they don't really understand or know how to do or what to do, because it's just like you're into an unknown area. So who you should partner with, what you should do, and how exactly you should handle the whole process. Now, first of all, very importantly is that any companies that is going to penetrate or enter into any markets or the whole ASEAN, which is so big, you have to identify your key strategic markets. Now, key strategic markets is not relevant in terms of the population size or the market size, because as you know, everybody in thinking about ASEAN, they think about China and India, but that does not necessarily be the first country that you register your product with. You have to look into the dynamics of the countries. You have to look into, like I said just now, the market protectionism. You have to look into the ease of application, which is our next point. It's very important to go into a country where the applications process is very easy and very straightforward. That comes back with your key strategic markets, like how you should actually handle and choose which is the first few to go into. And the speed of approval is also critically important. We all know that we want to jumpstart immediately and launch our product and start to sell and generate income for the companies, right? So, but what is very important is that there's a lot of countries these days, the approval takes very long. I take example of China. It's getting more and longer for the past few years. Japan is considering the longest in terms of the speed of approval. So not only that it's very difficult to apply, but the approval takes many years to come. So these are also the considerations that you need to think of before you choose the first country to apply for. And of course, next is to look into your process readiness, your documentations, and there's a lot of companies that their documentation, their dossier is not even ready before they actually wanted to do the apply of the regulatory. I give an example that one of the companies that they wanted to, from Germany, by right, they wanted to enter into Asia. Then they know that actually all their dossiers is not in English. Basically, it's in German language, and that takes them about 1 to 2 years to convert into English before they can apply for the regulatory process. So take note of that. And last but not least is the effective regulatory partner. Carefully choose your regulatory partners. Be it if your company's resources permit, you might want to get your own regulatory employee that to be in charge of the application. But these days, people don't really do that. People actually move into a third-party regulatory partner, be it in the external party or internal party. So it could be a regional regulatory partner. It could be a local regulatory partner, depends on each country you are looking into. So these are the main key consideration that you need to understand and to decide before you move into the next step, which is to apply for the regulatory application. Yeah. Okay, that's all that I'm sharing today. So a little bit of overall for HereWave. So if let's say you guys got any kind of questions and any more queries, please feel free to email me and for us to discuss more into further details. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim, for your introduction on to the regulatory framework in Singapore. I wanted to add to the audience as well that we understand that the regulatory framework is a very deep topic that would need its own webinar. So today the goal was to share an overview so Basque companies are aware of all the main matters and avenues to consider when trying to register medical devices in Singapore. Because as I mentioned, we will need one whole hour or even more to discuss and to explain further. I think we can go to the questions and answers. I'll start with Kim, since you were the last one to do the introduction. We changed the order, and I wanted to ask if what, like, you touch upon more into the regulation side. I know that you are also in the market entry business and distribution as well. So I wanted to ask you if you could share 1 or 2 tips for Basque companies that who could be interested in entering the market and they have not much experience in the ASEAN or Asian or ASEAN markets. You could share 1 or 2 tips that could be interesting for them.
Yeah, I think that what is very important is to have a business guide. Sort of like when you go to visit a country, you prefer to have a tour guide to lead you around the countries. So a business guide basically will help the companies to shortcut a lot of process. So you will not walk long distance. So there is a lot of shortcuts that can be taken. And in fact, Singapore Medtech Consortium itself can provide that advantage.
Okay. And I think we also have a question. I think you already mentioned it, but how long they're asking how long could it take to register a medical device in Singapore? I know that you share a slide, and there's differences in the type of medical device and the type of route that you're choosing. But can you just give or emphasize further on more or less how long could it take?
Generally, it's about 160 days. So if you are talking about that's why it comes back to how prepared is the dossier and documentations. If everything is intact, very neatly prepared, I would think that it's around 4 to 6 months for a Class B product.
Okay, understood. And what about the cost? they're asking how much could cost to achieve the certification in Singapore, including the cost of consulting, for example, just an overall. Of course, I understand also is it'll depend on many matters, but if you can share
Okay, so for HSA application cost itself for Class B is there around Sing dollar 5,000 to 8,000.
5,000 to 8,000. Okay.
That is for application fee. Now, consultant fee, correct. Consultant fee will really vary. It depends, like I said, that you are looking for a regional partner or a local partner. So it really varies. It can cost about a few $1,000s to about 10 to 20,000 per product.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. I also want to ask Kenny, because the examples that you mentioned, Kenny, about the devices that you've helped manufacture, they were mainly for bigger companies, I believe. And what would be the route for smaller companies or startups? Well, you actually gave the example of Fitbit when it was more to a startup. But what would be the route for manufacturing and developing the products to build the prototype first for a smaller company?
Right. I think for a smaller company, because it's only one product, so we have a team over here that focus on that particular product. So what it means is that, if they already have the proof of concept ready, depends on which phase of manufacturing are they at. So for example, for Fitbit, when they come to us, they have only the ID and the concept, how it's going to work. So for them, we help them to look at, design for manufacture, because you can design a very fantastic product and the yield loss could be very high. But, when you come to us, we look at design for manufacturing, design for assembly. So what it means is that when we have a particular design, we hope that we could have the liberty to change the design maybe about 10 to 15% to ease the whole manufacturing process and to make the tool much more simple. And of course, our engineers over here are taught into a manner, how do we integrate two parts into one? How do we take a look at design for assembly? So meaning to say, if you have a product and you have after sales service, how do we replace the module? This is what we mean by design for assembly. So we help them with the prototype as well. And of course, regulatory, as I mentioned earlier, from C to FTC. Of course, the first starting point of an intelligent product is good to start in Singapore. And once the volume has ramped up, we will propose to run it in the places where the costs are much more competitive. It is still a IP protected product. Because one of my facility in Batam, we have about 4 buildings. We actually set it up because to be honest with you, I'm running competitors, so I can't be shipping, so that when the customer is here, I won't be showing them the competitive product here as well. So for startup, we understand the whole entire journey is quite a very much experience with that, because I think with our experience in the Bay Area where we deal with a lot of startups, eventually they all exit and selling to most of the big boys out there.
Understood. I wanted to clarify with Keen, the question that I made before. They're asking for a Class 2A CE product.
Correct. Class 2A CE product is similar to Class B of the Singapore HSA application.
Okay, so the cost and time will be similar.
Correct.
Okay, understood. I wanted also to go back to Kenny in terms of you mentioned about the labor cost in terms of where you will manufacture the devices that you try to produce. Are there other considerations that you take into account in terms of where to produce or where to manufacture the devices from a specific company in terms of market proximity or specific manpower knowledge or engineering knowledge that the product needs?
Okay, so there are 3 things that we look into. Number 1 is the annual quantity. How much the quantity are they going to produce? Number 2, the size of the product. Number 3, the complexity. So these are all taken into consideration to decide the destination of manufacturing. And of course, most of the diagnostic equipment that has very high value is all stay in Singapore. And of course, Singapore, over here, we change, the whole manufacturing line in Singapore in research change every 2-3 years. So most of the product, after 2-3 years, new technology will come in, and we will actually interface with new technology, and older technology will be sent to some of the neighborhood country.
Okay, understood. I also wanted to ask Marianne about how involved is EDB and the Singapore government in terms of the future development of the healthcare and medtech industry in Singapore.
So the EDB, while it is an economic organization, we work very closely with, for example, the Ministry of Health, the Health Sciences Authority, as well as industry to cite future trends and also to work with industry to adjust accordingly. So like what Kenny mentioned previously about where is manufacturing done. So we recognize that Singapore is not a low-cost location, but it is a good place to manufacture high value products that require very strong intellectual property rights. It is a good place to do really the most essential parts of your product. So we also then work with industry to see, okay, what are some of the new capabilities that are required? So for example, in the area of, if I took an example from biopharmaceuticals, then we work very closely with the Ministry of Health to understand what are some of the new technologies coming up. For example, the mRNA, not just for vaccines, but also for therapeutics. And then what are the capabilities in Singapore we need to build up accordingly. Yeah, so it's a constant work in progress because we know that the industry moves very quickly.
Understood. I think there's no more questions. So I think we'll close the webinar here. Just to finalize the event, I just wanted to thank our speakers again, as well as the audience for joining us today. And we hope the content of the webinar was of your interest. And just to remind that if anyone in the audience has any doubt or want to know more about the matters discussed today, anyone can contact me directly or my colleague in Bilbao, Azucena Castro. Okay, also we can share the presentations if it's of their interest. Okay, so with this, just thanks again. Have a great day and see you in future events. Thank you so much.